My Director General, Bill Swing, had hoped to be here, but as you can imagine, we are being pulled in many different directions, and so it's my lucky day that I get to come instead. I must say, the energy and positivism of what's going on in here is fabulous. We go to many conferences on migration, and many of them can be incredibly dull and very negative, and in some places the word migrant or migration can be a conversation stopper. So here, where things are really truly inspiring, it's great to have a chance to meet you and talk to you. I was asked to talk about IOM's contribution to discussions on migrants and cities. Our latest World Migration Report, which is our flagship publication that usually comes out every 2 years, was issued in October last year with the title Migrants and Cities, New Partnerships to Manage Mobility. It focuses on how migration and migrants are shaping cities and how the life of migrants is shaped by cities, their people, organizations, and rules. While acknowledging the vast differences between international and internal migration scenarios and between the capacities of various countries to deal with these, the report highlights the growing evidence of potential benefits of all forms of migration and mobility for city growth and development. It showcases innovative ways in which migration and urbanization policies can be better designed for the benefit of migrants and cities, and we've heard about many of those this morning. Also in October in Geneva, we held a conference on migrants and cities for global dialogue on migration involving all levels of migration governance. Importantly, local authorities had a chance to talk to national governments, including their own, in a safe space from all over the world. And we had more than 600 participants, mayors, vice mayors, prefects representing cities and communes from across the globe, spoke about their role in migration policy making and shared their best practices and challenges in managing this increasing trend. The conference demonstrated the significant role that local and city institutions play in the management of human mobility. Firstly, cities as a place of contact between cultures. Nearly 1 in 5 of the world's 245 million migrants live in the world's top 20 largest cities. In many of these cities, such as Sydney, London, and New York, for example, migrants represent more than 1/3 of the population. In some cities, such as Amsterdam, Brussels, and Dubai, and as we heard this morning, Toronto, migrants account for half or more of the population. In other cities, the growth in migration has been remarkably quick. For example, the number of foreign residents in Seoul has doubled in the last 10 years. The reasons such cities attract large numbers of people are very clear. Cities offer significant employment opportunities. They provide convenient access to essential services such as transport, health, and education. They offer investment, knowledge, and technologies, and newcomers can readily connect with social support networks consisting of family, friends, or persons sharing a similar ethnic or linguistic background. These are some of the reasons why most migrants, even those from the most backward, isolated rural areas of the world, choose urban destinations. Cities are where most migrants come into contact with their new host country. Cities are also where migrants settle when they return to their countries of origin, if they do. But local authorities lead on migration policy and planning. It is evident that migration towards cities will continue to increase in the coming decades, yet significant population flows to cities, triggered by conflicts, disasters, climate change, and other shocks, can seriously challenge local authorities' capacity to provide migrants with adequate access to services such as health, housing, and education. At our conference in October, the Vice Minister of El Salvador and mayors of Palermo and Madrid showed that stopping or controlling migration to cities is not a solution. Not only would this breach people's basic human rights, but it would also obstruct the economic benefits that migration produces. I have to say that while I'm giving examples from the Migrants and Cities Conference, Howard Duncan, as the editor of the report of that conference, will probably be able to add many more. Anyway, I will continue. Cities need to be better prepared to face the challenges that come with urban migration, particularly by adapting or promoting policy responses in ways that accommodate rather than seek to halt migration. The need to keep migrants at the heart of city governance remains a challenge, not least from a systemic point of view. But cities allow for area-based responses that are more integrated. This means that we have the opportunity to strengthen existing functional governance systems and rely on capabilities and resources already in place, rather than recreate or duplicate systems, as may well be the case at the national level. Migrants must be integrated in urban planning to mitigate the risks in event of a crisis or negative effects of migration, and to facilitate migrants' integration and their beneficial impact on cities. City leaders, especially those of cities facing increasing migration flows, such as Mogadishu, Palermo, and Athens, among others, showed that they deal on a daily basis with the most practical and impactful aspects of migration and migrants' needs. Migrants and members of the diaspora can act as bridge builders and promoters of development. They can contribute to reducing risks of urban crises, in building the resilience of cities of destination, and in developing cities in their areas of origin. Mayors and local authorities have a crucial role in developing inclusive policies that facilitate the integration of migrants into local areas, while contributing to the development of their countries and communities of origin. Our World Migration Report showcased the best practices of the city of Gaziantep in Turkey. That municipality has adopted a comprehensive program for the Syrians displaced by conflict, providing adequate assistance and integration support without undermining the well-being of the host communities. With the support of local communities, whose acceptance of the displaced Syrians remains high, the city has adopted a comprehensive program for the immediate and longer-term needs of displaced people through the distribution of food and essential household items, the protection of specifically vulnerable groups, and improved longer-term access to education, services, and opportunities. The local health system has assisted over 50,000 Syrians through free consultations and provision of medicine, addressing health concerns linked with the living conditions of many of the displaced. Specific assistance has targeted children who have benefited from psychosocial support and vaccination campaigns, and also women. Further efforts will be needed to raise awareness among the displaced of their right to assistance, as well as to improve accessibility of healthcare for those living in marginalized settlements. Indeed, comprehensive urban planning and sound integration policies can result in a triple win scenario, simultaneously offering benefits for the migrant, the country of destination, and the country of origin. Positive examples of this approach are readily available, one of which was given by Nisha this morning, describing the municipal identity card, enabling access to schools, hospitals, libraries, bank accounts, and so on. And the important thing about that particular program is that the data is protected. At the same time, a comprehensive approach to migration governance means we must also not overlook the negative impacts of urbanization on rural areas. For example, the president of the communes of Togo and the mayor of Karafan in Niger pointed out how shrinking rural populations can have significant social and economic impacts on those left behind in those areas. This is particularly important as the groups left behind, including often the youth, the elderly, and the disabled, often have the greatest needs. The immense potential contribution of migrants and the proven benefits should be emphasized to balance and ultimately drown out negative perceptions about immigration. While overall discourse on migration tends to be set at the top, it is local leadership and community actors who can often play the largest role in promoting positive perceptions towards migration and migrants. IOM has launched a public-private alliance for fair and ethical recruitment to create a platform for employers, recruitment intermediaries, governments, civil society organizations, and other organizations to promote fair recruitment. This platform provides a mechanism for appropriate communication and collaboration for ethical recruitment and labor supply chain management. It aims to ensure that the distinct interests and capacities of different sectors would be recognized and reflected in the roles and responsibilities to be agreed for governments, employers, recruiters, civil society, and other organizations. Meaningful, evidence-based dialogue at all levels of government is a prerequisite for the governance of migration and an opportunity for good governance overall. Good governance of human mobility in the urban context requires partnerships between local and central authorities and all relevant actors. Yet currently there is a disconnect between central and local authorities in the policy and planning process, with governments often failing to sufficiently acknowledge and take account of and support the role of local authorities in national development planning. Such cooperation between local and national level is, however, a requirement for migration to be well managed. At our conference in October, the State Secretary of Serbia said that his country was facing its greatest migration crisis since World War II. He explained how local authorities were collaborating with the central government and international organizations based in the country to assist with managing the massive migration flows entering Serbia from Macedonia and Bulgaria. Most originated from Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq, and included large numbers of unaccompanied minors who faced a high risk of exploitation. Data, specialized services, and increased capacities must be ready to be put in place in a coordinated fashion for effective migration solutions. At the same time, if strengthened whole-of-government approaches allow for coherent policy responses which can maximize the positive outcomes of migration and human mobility. Moreover, partnerships between local and central authorities can ensure that national policies align with the needs and capacities of local authorities, and thus ensure the systemic conditions for policy implementation. The International Organization for Migration is the global lead migration agency, an intergovernmental organization with 162 member states, providing authoritative advice on how to govern migration better. We were founded in 1951 at the same time as UNHCR. UNHCR was founded to deal with the refugee, the political caseload, and we were founded to deal with what was unkindly at the time referred to as the surplus population of Europe. The people who, following the war, were really left with no possibility of economic activity and livelihoods, whereas and during the war, civilian ship traffic had been completely stopped. So North America, South America, Australia, and New Zealand had not been able to import migrants during the course of the war, and they desperately wanted to have people to come. And it is a sign of the far-sightedness of our founders in 1951 that they saw migration as building and supporting development. So we have been moving not just migrants, but also refugees. When we don't decide on who is a refugee, and we don't decide where they go when they have been identified as refugees, but we do the practical side of things. We do the health assessments, we do the cultural orientation, and we do the movement. And we're very proud to have been working with Canada to bring in the 25,000 Syrians by the end of February. We're lucky that February had 29 days. IOM has implemented programs that assist governments with the integration of migrants in their societies. We support policies and strategies that promote social, economic, and cultural inclusion of migrants within existing legal frameworks in countries of destination. We focus on the development of strategies that help migrants better integrate into new communities, as well as assisting receiving communities to recognize the positive contributions that migrants can make. This two-way integration process is essential for the existence of thriving multicultural communities. We take a comprehensive approach to migrant integration in order to ensure that migrants can fully engage with host societies from a socio-economic, political, and cultural perspective to build inclusive, fair, and harmonious societies. There are a number of important events coming up this year at which migrants and migration can be taken into account, and we are working to try and do this. We feel that we have been successful in getting migrants and migration into the Sustainable Development Goals. They feature in a number of places, directly and indirectly, but as the goals were shown earlier, 10.7, which is on reducing inequalities, has a target on facilitating the orderly, regular, responsible migration through planned and well-managed migration policies. And we feel that that is a very important area of our work and incorporates some of the features that appear in other goals and targets, such as eliminating human trafficking, working on decent work, migrants' rights, the whole rights portfolio, and others. And Goal 11, the urban SDG that seeks to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, and resilient and sustainable, is also something that speaks to us in terms of ensuring that migrants are incorporated into that. We also look forward to Habitat 3, the major urbanization conference that will take place in Quito in October and will result in a 20-year strategy called the New Urban Agenda. That summit and its preparations offer an opportunity to raise awareness around the issues, first, that migration is a key driver of cities' growth, and second, that migrants are indeed individuals with specific needs during times of crisis, but can also be agents of development when the right policies are put in place. These priorities respond to calls by UN member states and others for broader and more coherent inclusion of migration in the preparatory discussions. And states have highlighted the need to link humanitarian and development discussions and promote an integrated and comprehensive approach to urban migration management. Importantly, Habitat 3 is coming after not only the adoption of the SDGs, but also the UN Climate Agreement, as well as discussions at the World Humanitarian Summit, scheduled for Istanbul in May. Each of these processes offers an opportunity to promote sustainable development, as well as a reformed approach to crisis response and mitigation. And migration is an important common factor in all. Ultimately, the extent to which migration is integrated into local policy planning will determine how well human mobility can positively affect cities. As we heard this morning very clearly, integration is not an intellectual process, nor is it an abstract concept that can be reduced to fulfillment of administrative requirement, however important these may be. Integration is a people process that is felt, breathed, and lived in an immediate and personal way, both from the point of view of the migrant and that of the local community. Workplaces, shopping centres, schools, places of worship, community centres, and local government offices are the social crucibles where, under the best circumstances, the alchemy of integration occurs. Unfortunately, it's also true that under the worst of circumstances, integration can fail, and when it does, the costs are borne on all sides, communities of origin, destination, and migrants alike. It is therefore important that local governments develop social inclusion policies aimed at providing better living conditions for migrants, thereby promoting more cohesive societies. Migration needs to be included in local development plans. IOM's latest World Migration Report provides the evidence base for well-managed migration, and the recent conference on migrants and cities clarified the scope and applications of these recommendations. Together, these offer the evidence base and relevant recommendations comprehensively to address ongoing concerns and raise awareness of migration in the contexts of urban planning and development. This is a starting point for well-governed migration, but what is most important is that migrants should and must be part of the urbanization project. Their views and voices should be heard. We must continually ask how best to enable migrants to unleash their potential and to help host communities do so too. How to engage resources, skills, ideas to build and revitalize cities. As others have said, the key is leadership, and not just words, but evident conviction which infects others with enthusiasm, engagement, and positive energy, and that changes perceptions and actions into positive ones. I would like to congratulate Toronto and Canada for having this. Thank you.